The Idaho Murders. Bryan Kohberger's First Months Behind Bars, the Lock Cell. Before we dive in, remember, the darker the truth gets, the brighter your support shines. Hit subscribe, like, and drop a comment. It helps push stories like this to the people who need answers the most. The echo of steel striking concrete was the first sound Bryan Kohberger heard as the cell door slammed behind him. It wasn't loud, just final. A dull, metallic thud that sealed the space between the life he once lived and the one he could never return to. Cameras blinked red from both corners of the small room, their lenses trained on him like unblinking eyes. For the guards escorting him, this wasn't just another booking. It was the arrival of the most talked-about suspect in the country, a criminology Ph.D. student arrested for the gruesome murders of 4 University of Idaho students. His face had been on every screen, every channel, every late-night news segment for weeks. And now here he was, silent, stiff, and strangely composed. The jail was unusually restless that morning. Deputies whispered in the hallways. Inmates pressed their faces against narrow glass windows, hoping to catch even a glimpse of the man whose name carried a strange mixture of horror and intrigue. To them, he wasn't just another new arrival. He was a walking headline, a living question mark. But the public never saw the moment he entered the cell, never saw the way he scanned the walls, taking in every detail as if cataloging them. The rust-stained vent, the thin mattress, the tiny metal desk bolted to the floor. He looked less like someone shocked by confinement and more like someone studying it. Outside the cell, Sheriff's Deputy Carl Hines leaned in close to another officer. "We're on 24-hour surveillance," he muttered. "No mistakes. No blind spots. Not with this one." Because even now, even in restraints, Kohberger represented a different kind of risk. Some inmates would want to hurt him. Others would want to befriend him. A few might try to exploit him. And among the staff, tension simmered. Everyone felt the pressure. Every officer knew the world was watching. The first hours ticked by quietly, broken only by the intermittent crackle of the intercom and the distant shouts of inmates during morning rounds. But the calm didn't last. Just after noon, a commotion erupted down the hallway. A group of inmates had been returning from recreation when one of them, a broad-shouldered man with a shaved head, stopped directly in front of Kohberger's cell window. He stared through the glass with a slow, deliberate grin. "You're the one," the man murmured, voice thick with menace. A guard immediately stepped in and shoved him forward. "Keep moving." But the moment lingered. Inside the cell, Kohberger didn't react. He simply stood still, hands folded, gaze steady, as if this, too, was something he had anticipated, something he had already studied. Meanwhile, in a small office 2 floors above, investigators continued combing through new evidence, digital logs, phone records, and surveillance footage. One detail had emerged that morning, something strange enough to create a ripple of unease across the team. A deputy rushed into the room, holding a manila folder. "You need to see this," he said, breathless. Detective Lauren Price flipped it open, expecting routine paperwork. But her expression shifted instantly, eyes narrowing, breath catching just slightly. Because inside that folder was a discovery that didn't fit. A detail that raised new questions. A detail that suggested someone, somewhere, had been watching the victims long before the crime. And then she saw it, the small handwritten note attached to the evidence report. 3 words that froze the room. "Check the basement." The basement files. Detective Lauren Price stared at the note again, her fingers tightening around the edge of the folder. The handwriting was shaky, rushed, almost like it had been written in fear. The basement it referred to wasn't in the victim's house, nor in Kohberger's apartment. It belonged to an off-campus storage facility tied to a completely different name. A name that hadn't appeared in the case. A name no one had flagged. A name that shouldn't have had anything to do with the investigation. Yet the timestamp on the evidence log made something clear. This clue wasn't new. It had been overlooked, buried, and someone had wanted it found now. By late afternoon, Lauren and her partner, Detective Reed Sanderson, reached the old storage building. The place looked like it had been forgotten by everyone except the spiders. Concrete walls streaked with moisture. Rust creeping down metal doors. The kind of place where secrets didn't echo. They rotted. Unit 47. The lock had been cut months before, according to the manager, though no one remembered requesting it. The door groaned open. A stale, sour smell rushed out, thick enough to taste. Lauren lifted her flashlight. The beam swept across dusty toolboxes, broken furniture, and towering stacks of unlabeled cardboard boxes. "What are we supposed to be looking for?" Reed asked. "Anything that connects the victims to this location," Lauren replied. They moved deeper inside, careful not to disturb anything unnecessarily. On the far wall sat an old metal filing cabinet, the drawers slightly ajar like someone had left in a hurry. Lauren pulled the top drawer open. It was filled with scattered photos, hundreds of them, of empty roads, parking lots, restaurant fronts, and seemingly random houses. Reed lifted a handful of them. "These look like surveillance shots," he muttered. "But who took them?" Lauren didn't answer. Her light had caught something on the bottom of the drawer, a thick envelope labeled in black marker. Northview House. Her stomach tightened. That was the victim's residence. She tore the envelope open. Dozens of photos spilled onto the cabinet surface, shots of the house from multiple angles, taken at different times of the day. Some zoomed in on windows, others on cars parked outside. One showed the back sliding door half open, captured at night. Reed swallowed. "This isn't amateur stuff." "No," Lauren murmured. "This is someone mapping patterns, entrances, routines." They both froze when they reached the last photo in the stack. It was taken from inside the tree line behind the victim's house. A shadowy figure stood between the branches, partially obscured, head turned toward the house. The timestamp was 2 months before the murders. But the detail that chilled them wasn't the date. It was the height, the build, the outline. It looked like Kohberger, but something was off. The posture, the shoulders, the shape of the jaw. It was someone else. Before Lauren could speak, her phone buzzed sharply. A call from the jail. Her blood ran colder the moment she heard the warden's voice. "Detective Price, you need to get down here. Now." "What happened?" "It's Kohberger. You told us to report anything unusual." "Well, he just asked for you. By name." Lauren's eyes snapped to Reed. "I've never spoken to him," she whispered. "And there's more," the warden added. "When I asked him why he wanted to talk to you, he said something else." Lauren braced herself. He said, "Tell her she opened the wrong drawer." The line went dead. The basement suddenly felt smaller, darker, like something was waiting in the shadows. Reed exhaled shakily. "Lauren, how did he know we were here?" She didn't answer. Because the truth was dawning on her, slow and terrifying. Someone was feeding him information from the inside. The visitor. The jail smelled like bleach, metal, and the faint trace of too many secrets. Detective Lauren Price walked through the secure hallway, with a hard knot forming in her stomach. Every step echoed more than it should. It felt like the building itself knew something she didn't. Kohberger had never requested her before. He had never even acknowledged her existence. And yet somehow he knew exactly where she had been. The corrections lieutenant led her into the observation room behind the interview cell. "You can talk from in here. He won't see you," he assured her. Laura nodded, though she wasn't sure she believed it. Through the one-way glass, Kohberger sat calmly at the metal table, hands folded, face expressionless. His jumpsuit looked slightly oversized, but nothing about his posture was small. He carried a stillness that felt wrong. Too aware, too measured. Reed whispered beside her, "He doesn't look surprised to be here." "No," Lauren murmured. "He looks like he's waiting." The intercom clicked on. Kohberger's voice filled the observation room, low and disturbingly steady. "Detective Price." Lauren stiffened. She hadn't introduced herself. He shouldn't have known she was listening. "You found the basement," he continued. "Good." Reed nearly choked. "What the hell does he mean?" "Let him talk," Lauren whispered. Kohberger tilted his head slightly, almost amused. "You opened a drawer that didn't belong to me. That part is important." Lauren felt her pulse thicken. He was confirming it. He wasn't the one in the surveillance photos. "Who does it belong to?" she asked through the mic. Kohberger ignored the question. Instead, he leaned forward slowly, eyes narrowing as though he could see through the glass. "A man who has been watching people from the shadows for a long time," Kohberger said. "Long before I was here." Reed muttered, "He's playing games." But Lauren wasn't so sure. Kohberger continued, "Did you notice the pattern in the photos? Or are you still looking at them individually?" Lauren swallowed. "What pattern?" He gave a thin smile. "You'll understand when you find the next location." Her stomach dropped. "There's another one?" "Oh, many," Kohberger said plainly. "He likes storage units, basements, abandoned spaces, places no one checks." Lauren tried again. "Who is he?" Kohberger's smile faded. "He calls himself the visitor." Reed frowned. "Visitor? Visitor to what?" "To people's lives," Kohberger replied. "To their routines, their homes, their quiet moments. He visits them long before anything happens." Lauren felt a cold wave run up her spine. She had seen many criminals, many manipulators. But this was different. Kohberger sounded like he feared this man. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. Kohberger's gaze sharpened. "Because he's not done. And you're already on his list." Reed's hand landed on Lauren's shoulder, steady but tense. "That's enough. We're done here." But Kohberger wasn't. He leaned even closer to the glass, voice turning soft and eerily calm. "You opened the wrong drawer, but the right man found you." Lauren stepped back. Her breath caught. Something cold flickered in the pit of her stomach, a sense that this case was unraveling into something deeper than a single killer. As they exited the observation room, the lieutenant jogged up, pale. "Detectives, you need to see this." He handed Lauren a torn piece of paper. It had been found inside the evidence locker, taped beneath a shelf where no inmate could possibly reach. On it was a handwritten message. "Unit 12, South Ridge Depot. Come alone." Reed blew out a breath. "Tell me this is a joke." But Laura knew better. This wasn't Kohberger's writing. This was someone else. Someone who had access. Someone who had eyes everywhere. She folded the note, pulse hammering. The visitor wanted to meet. And he wasn't hiding anymore. Unit 12. South Ridge Depot sat on the edge of Moscow, Idaho, half swallowed by weeds and dust. It was a forgotten storage facility, the kind of place people used to hide old furniture, broken appliances, or memories they didn't want to face. At night, the rows of metal doors looked like a lineup of silent witnesses. Detective Lauren Price parked her unmarked sedan just beyond the last flickering streetlight. She wasn't alone. Reed refused to stay behind, and two uniformed officers waited down the block, engines cold, lights off. "Come alone," Reed muttered, rereading the note. "Yeah, that's not happening." Lauren stepped out, the gravel crunching under her boots like brittle bones. "Stay behind me," she said. They moved between the rows of storage units. The night felt unusually still, no wind, no insects, no distant cars. Only the faint hum of a transformer somewhere far off. Unit 12 was near the middle. Its metal door was old, rusted at the edges. A thin strip of light leaked from the bottom, as if something inside was glowing. Reed whispered, "Maybe it's a trap." "Everything about this case is a trap," Lauren replied. She raised her flashlight, drawing a long beam across the door. A fresh padlock hung on it, brand new, polished, clean. Someone wanted it secured, recently and deliberately. Lauren's pulse tightened. "Cut it," she ordered. Reed clipped the lock in one quick snap. The metal door groaned as they lifted it. Dust fell in thick sheets. Then the smell hit them, bleach mixed with stale air. The room was empty, completely empty. No furniture, no boxes, just a single wooden chair in the center, and something resting on it. A binder, thick, black, unlabeled. Reed swallowed. "What is this?" Lauren approached cautiously, her light steady. She flipped open the cover. Inside were pages of photographs, hundreds, organized in plastic sleeves. But the photos weren't of the Idaho case. They weren't even of Kohberger. These were different. Different houses, different neighborhoods, different people. Lauren whispered, "This is surveillance." Every page showed someone living their normal life. A woman locking her back door. A man carrying groceries. Children walking home from school. A college student studying by a window. All photographed through windows, hedges, cracks and fences late at night. Early morning, unseen. Reed flipped ahead quickly, his breath tightening. Lauren. Look. He pointed to the last section of the binder. The pages were blank. All except for the final one. A single photograph. Taken from inside a car. At night. Focused through a windshield. The subject. Detective Lauren Price, standing outside her apartment door, reaching for her keys. Reed's voice cracked. This was taken last night. Lauren's hands trembled for the first time. This wasn't speculation anymore. This wasn't about Kohberger's case. She was being watched closely, repeatedly, recently. Before she could speak, a sharp metallic snap echoed at the far end of the depot. They froze. Another snap. A lock. A door. Someone moving. Lauren whispered, flashlights off. Darkness swallowed them. Footsteps echoed, slow, careful, deliberate. Not running. Not hiding. Whoever it was wanted them to hear. Reed leaned close. We need to pull back. But Lauren felt something deeper. An instinct she had learned long before she wore a badge. The footsteps weren't random. They were circling. A soft scrape sounded behind Unit 12. Then a voice. A calm, low whisper carried through the metal walls. Detective, you came. Reed motioned toward the exit. Now, move. Lauren backed out, one step at a time, covering the darkness with her drawn flashlight. Another whisper slid through the rows. You shouldn't have brought anyone. The hair on Lauren's neck rose. The voice wasn't trembling, wasn't hiding. It was confident. Close. Too close. A distant engine roared to life. Tires screeched. A car peeled out from the far exit of the depot. By the time the patrol unit swung in, the vehicle was gone. No plate, no trace, no direction of travel. Only dust, tire marks, and the lingering echo of someone who knew far too much. Reed exhaled shaky breath. We're dealing with someone organized. Lauren stared at the binder, still in her hands. He's not just organized, she said quietly. He's ahead of us. And for the first time since the Idaho case began, she felt like she wasn't hunting a suspect. She was being hunted. The shadow in the records. The binder sat open on Detective Lauren Price's desk, its pages fanned out like a confession. The still images, people frozen in their private lives, felt heavier than any evidence she'd handled before. But one photograph weighed on her more than all the others combined. Her reaching for her apartment door, unaware a camera watched from the darkness. Morning light leaked through the blinds of the station's conference room. It should have felt safer than the dead silence of the storage depot. It didn't. Reed paced across the room, agitation written in every step. We have to loop in the state investigators, he said. Someone's hunting you, Lauren. This isn't optional anymore. It's connected, Lauren replied, her eyes never leaving the binder. To Kohberger? Reed asked. To something bigger. She tapped the blank divider tab that separated the older surveillance photographs from the new ones. These photos go back years, long before the Idaho murders. Someone else was watching patterns, people, routines, vulnerabilities. Reed frowned. You think this person was studying victims? Lauren shook her head slowly. No, I think they were studying investigators. Before Reed could respond, Captain Ward entered the room, her face tight, jaw locked. She carried a folder. You both need to hear this. Ward dropped the folder on the table. Last night, 2 miles from the storage depot, she said, a traffic camera caught the tail end of a black sedan speeding out of the industrial zone. No plates, tinted windows, mass driver. Lauren felt a cold ripple tighten her chest. The same one that fled when we approached Unit 12, Reed said. Ward nodded. But there's more. She slid a printed still frame toward them. The image was grainy, blurred, but unmistakable. The sedan. The angle. And behind it. Reed leaned in. Is that a drone? Ward confirmed with a grim nod. Someone followed you to the depot. Someone who knew you'd be there. Lauren felt her pulse thicken. That meant the note wasn't bait randomly left behind. It had purpose, timing, control. Who sent the note? She whispered. Ward exchanged a heavy look with Reed before answering. That's what we need to discuss. She opened the folder and revealed another sheet, torn from the same notebook the original message came from. On it, in the same smooth handwriting, was a new message. You're close, but not to the person you think. Reed exhaled. He's taunting you. But Lauren noticed something else. A faint watermark on the corner of the note, barely visible unless angled toward the light. Her eyes sharpened. That's an evidence processing stamp. Reed stiffened. No way. That stamp is from our department. Ward didn't argue. Her silence said everything. Lauren's mind raced through possibilities, each one worse than the last. Someone inside their own system had access to evidence stamps and surveillance photos and Lauren's address. Someone trained, disciplined, invisible. We're dealing with internal compromise, Lauren said quietly. Ward nodded. We've narrowed the list to 5 people with access to evidence processing and storage keys. Reed clenched his jaw. We can bring them in. Lauren cut him off. No. If they know we're looking, they'll run. But they already know, Ward said softly, sliding the second note toward her. This message was dropped into your mailbox this morning. Lauren froze. Her mailbox. Her home. The message was short. Just one line. Check the last page. The room held its breath as Lauren opened the binder. Slowly, page by page, until she reached the end. The blank plastic sleeve. The one that had held the photo of her. Except now, it wasn't blank. Another photo sat inside. A fresh one. Taken at dawn. From across the street. Lauren, standing on her balcony, drinking her morning coffee. Taken today. Reed swallowed hard. He's steps ahead of us. Ward whispered, he's inside the investigation. But Lauren felt something deeper, something cold and unmistakable. He wasn't just inside the investigation. He was inside her life. A final note, handwritten beneath the new photo, caught her eye. You're not the hunter, detective. You're the study. The words bled into her mind like ink soaking through paper. Reed's voice trembled. Lauren, who would do this? She closed the binder slowly. Her answer was almost a whisper. Someone who's been preparing for a long time. Outside, a car engine rumbled. A shadow passed across the blinds. And Lauren realized. This story wasn't ending. It was only shifting into a phase far more dangerous than anything the Idaho murders had revealed. The real threat had just begun. And he was watching. Always watching.